Bonjour encore, étudiante de français. Hello again, French students. This is your Unit 5 live class recording, and it is going to be a semester review. So we will review some of the more difficult concepts you've encountered this semester. And notice it says J'aime le français. That means I love French. So after this video, I hope you still love French because it's going to be all about grammar. So you're going to review interrogative expressions, which are basically questions, object pronouns in the negative, prepositions of place, passé composé avec être, and imperative form with object pronouns. So if you're confused already, don't worry, we'll go over each one, what it is, and examples of how to use it. So we'll start with interrogative expressions. They, again, are used to ask questions. Basically, you just reverse the verb and subject pronoun and use a dash between the two. Examples: As-tu du café? Do you have any coffee? So notice that here, instead of saying tu as du café, like you normally would, as-tu. You put the verb first, the subject next with the dash in between to ask the question. Then êtes-vous, or excuse me, it should be êtes-vous une infirmière? Are you a nurse? So again, they inverted the verb and the subject to put a dash between. So now come the complications and exceptions of all of these rules, which there are always some. So the exceptions are when you use qui, que, quand, pourquoi, où, quel, combien, and comment when you ask these questions. So for those, you need to add a form of esque to the question, and notice that you must make a contraction for the letters that are vowels that follow each other in most cases. So you will use esque with a question and inverting the verb and subject, but just like you've learned before, you take off this E, you take off this E and you add an apostrophe if there's il or l afterwards. Okay? So we will go through many examples on the next couple of slides. So examples. Qui est-ce que vous voulez? Who do you want? So when you use qui, you need to insert a form of esque here, and then put your subject and verb. Okay, esque is considered the interrogative expression in this case. So you've already inverted this verb and subject here. So you don't need to invert these two. So when you use esque, you don't need to invert the verb you're talking about, vous voulez. Qui est-ce que vous voulez? And notice, yes, for this I here on qui, you do not need to put an apostrophe before the est. Don't really know why. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. There's lots of examples in English of just the way it is, so this is just the way it is in French, unfortunately. Okay, and this should be que. It's hard to see when these little lines underneath are here, that they don't like that I've spelled things like this. So this should be que, but here you use the apostrophe to make a contraction with esque. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? What do you want? Okay, so you're using que. Your inverted form is s, and then you put que. Vous voulez. So when you use quand, here you are using esque with it. Quand est-ce qu'on va au cinéma? When do we go to the movies? So when you use quand, you insert your form of est-ce que, and here you took off the E and made a contraction with un. Qu'est-ce qu'on va au cinéma? When you use pourquoi, you have to insert your form of est-ce que here. Pourquoi est-ce qu'il va au marché? Why is he going to the market? So you've inserted your form of est-ce que. Notice you had to take off your last E and make your contraction because of the il. Okay, then when you use où, you also are using your form of est-ce que. Où est-ce que le chat dort? Where is the cat sleeping? So with où, you've inserted your form of est-ce que. Notice we did not have to take off the E and make a contraction here because of the L for le. Okay, so we'll go on to combien. Combien de pommes est-ce que tu as? How many apples do you have? So you're using combien, you're saying how many apples, and then do you have? There you inserted your form of est-ce que. And then comment est-ce qu'elle fait les courses? How is she going shopping? So when you use any of these question words, use est-ce que as your inverted subject and verb, and then say the rest of your sentence. So again, the question words that you use est-ce que with are qui, que, quand, pourquoi, où, combien, comment, and we left off quel because quel is all on the next slide. It's a very special one. Okay, so let's go on to quel. Quel is an even more special case since it is an adjective. It must agree with the noun it modifies. There are 4 examples for this one each for masculine singular, masculine plural, feminine singular, and feminine plural. So quel means which. Okay. Quel poivre est-ce que tu manges? Which pepper are you eating? Notice I use the plain old Q-U-E-L, quel, because poivre means pepper, like a green pepper, and it is masculine, le poivre, and it is singular. So you use the masculine singular form of quel. Quel poivre est-ce que tu manges? Now for the second one, it says quel poivre est-ce que tu manges? Sounds the same, but it means which peppers are you eating? So pepper is still masculine, but it is now plural. So you have to put the S on quel and S on poivre. Okay, we're going to go on to feminine examples. Quelle pomme est-ce que tu manges? Which apple are you eating? So quelle has the extra L and E because pomme is feminine, la pomme. And the last one is quelle pomme est-ce que tu manges? Sounds the same as the one above it, but again, pomme is feminine, so you add the extra L and E, and in this case it is plural, so you add the S to quelle and the S to pomme. Alright, let's be done with interrogative expressions and go on to object pronouns. Okay, personal pronouns or object pronouns. They literally mean me, him, her, it, us, or them. So, as the chart says, the object pronouns are put between the subject and the verb to avoid repetition. Okay, so it's between the singular subject and the verb, first person. Okay, so here's an example of that. Je parle à Jacques. I speak to Jacques. Je lui parle. I speak to him. So here is your object pronoun lui, which means him. And remember, it's between the subject and the verb. In English it is not. Him comes after the verb in English, but in French, just as most adjectives, the object pronoun comes before the verb, between the verb and the subject, okay? So and then in the plural, excuse me, I didn't tell you the singular ones. They're me, te, and lui, or la for feminine. Lui is him, la is feminine. Masculine, feminine. Now, did you notice the M apostrophe, T apostrophe, L apostrophe? As you might have guessed, those would come before a verb which has a vowel at the beginning, but not for lui, because just like qui, you don't make a contraction. That's just the way it is. Okay, so in the plural, the object pronouns are nous, vous, leur, and les. Okay? Leur means him, them, excuse me. Leur means them, and les are its, I guess. So, il mange les bonbons. Il les mange. Okay? They eat them. Them comes before. Les is basically for an object. Leur is a them, which means people. Okay? So if I wanted to use leur instead of les, and use an example of that I am speaking to them, I would just say je leur parle. Okay? So all you really need to remember here is the object pronouns come between the subject and the verb. Let's go on to more about object pronouns. In short, always keep the object pronoun before the verb. So, la place des pronoms. Okay, we are going to go through the first two here. We did not learn the past perfect. So we're not going to go through this last row here. We are going to go through the first two rows here. Okay? So in the affirmative, like we've been talking about, with one verb only. Seul means one, only. So tu le regardes. You see that between the object and the, or the pronoun, subject, and the verb. Tu y penses, tu en prends. So, yeah, in the slide before we were talking about direct object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns are the y and the en. So in the negative, you still keep the object pronoun right before the verb. You put the ne and the pas after, before and after. Okay? Still keep the object pronoun right before the verb, and you will be fine. Put the ne before, the pas after. Tu ne le regardes pas. You don't look at it, or you don't watch it. Tu n'y penses pas. Tu n'en prends pas. Okay, remember to always keep the object pronoun before the verb. Okay, the imperative really means it's telling someone to do something. Regarde-le. Watch it. Pense-y. Think of it. Prends-en. Take one. You're telling them to do it. So remember, in the imperative, just like in the interrogative, you are inverting the verb and the subject. So regarde is the verb, and you're talking about your object pronoun, so that's the subject. So you're inverting them. Okay, we are also going to ignore this for now. So using two verbs. The first verb is conjugated and the second verb is the infinitive. Like tu veux le voir. You want to see it. Keep your object pronoun between the conjugated verb and the infinitive. Okay, since there's two verbs there, between the two verbs. Tu dois y penser. You must think of it. You must. And to think, and then it. Tu vas en prendre. You are going to take it. Remember, the object pronoun goes before the infinitive verb here. In the negative, you are going to keep your object pronoun before the infinitive verb. You are going to put your ne and your pas around your conjugated verb, just like you always do. Tu ne veux pas le voir. You don't want to see it. Tu ne dois pas y penser. You must not think of it. Tu ne vas pas en prendre. You must not take it. Okay? And imperative form, like you're telling someone to do something. You keep your direct object pronoun before your conjugated verb. Vas en prendre. Go ahead and take it. Allons le faire. We're going to do it. Let's go to more object pronouns. Yay! And of course there are always two exceptions, like we were just talking about with the conjugated verb and the infinitive. If there are two verbs, the object pronoun gives before the infinitive, not the conjugated verb. So, in other words, in between the two. Example, tu veux le voir. You want to see it. There's the object pronoun right in between the conjugated verb and the infinitive. And if you are using an interrogative expression, the question that we talked about, the object pronoun goes after the verb because you are inverting everything. An example of that is le regardes-tu? Did you watch it? Alrighty, let's go on. Let's be done with object pronouns for now. And here is the passé composé avec être. I want to try to get this all on one so you can see the whole slide. Okay, now this is kind of hard to see, but we're going to ignore this part up here right now. So we've learned about verbs in the passé composé with avoir, and that is using it with to have. Now, this semester we've also learned verbs that are, you put them in the past tense with être instead of avoir. So there's only a certain amount of verbs that do that, and they are listed right on this chart right here in yellow. And if you remember Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, then hopefully that will help you to remember the verbs that are made in the passé composé with être instead of avoir. So they are descendre, revenir, mourir, retourner, sortir, venir, arriver, naître, devenir, entrer, rentrer, tomber, rester, aller, monter, and partir. And you can read the meanings there if you've forgotten. So here's the past participle of them. So you would say, je suis descendu. I went down or descended. Like you were talking about, I descended the stairs. J'ai descendu. And the white letter at the end of some of these past participle means that it is an irregular past participle. So you basically just have to memorize it. So the past participles of these are descendu, revenu, mort, retourné, sorti, venu, arrivé, né, devenu, entré, rentré, tombé, resté, allé, monté, and parti. Let's go on to the next page for some examples. And there is Grumpy Cat there. He's saying, J'aime la grammaire, ça fait pleurer les gens. I love grammar. It makes people cry. So anyway, hopefully you're not crying by this time in this video. And this is actually ringing some bells of review for you. So basically, the passé composé avec être, basically they are verbs that are conjugated with être in the past tense instead of avoir. After the subject, like je, or tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle, those are the subjects. Conjugate the verb être, and then add the past participle as shown on that chart. Example, je suis allé à l'école ce matin. I went to school this morning. There is your subject. You conjugated the verb être, and you used the past participle of aller to say I went to school this morning. And all of these past participles, you must make them agree with the subject for feminine or masculine and plural. Like I said, je suis allé. Now, if I was a girl saying this, which I am, but I've made this in the masculine. But if you know that a girl is saying it, you would add an extra E on the end. Or if you said nous sommes allés, you would put an S on the end to make it plural. Okay, let's go on to prepositions of place. You're going to have to, on your final exam, know these. And we will just go over them again quickly. Sur means on. Dans means in. Entre, between. Sous, under. Derrière, behind. Devant, in front of. À gauche de, or gauche de, to the left of. À droite de, to the right of. À côté de, beside. Au-dessus de, over, and au-dessous de, under. You'll notice that the spelling of those is almost the same and the pronunciation is almost the same. However, there's one slight difference, dessus and dessous. There's the difference of the U sound and the OO sound. It's kind of difficult, but in writing, it's a lot easier to tell. In speaking and listening, you have to very carefully determine that. So the prepositions that end in de, here, à droite de, à côté de, au-dessus de, and au-dessous de, oh, and à gauche de, they always form a contraction such as de la, de l'apostrophe, and de when followed by a definitive article, le, la, l'apostrophe, and les. And we'll go over that in the next slide. Examples. Le micro-ondes est au-dessus du four. The microwave is over the oven. So you need to, the DE became du because four, oven, is masculine. La chaise est au-dessous de la table. The chair is under the table. So, de became de la because table is feminine. La baignoire est derrière le lavabo. The shower is behind the sink, which is kind of awkward if you are actually in a bathroom. But anyway. And la table de chevet est entre le lit et le bureau. The nightstand is between the bed and the desk. Those are how to use prepositions of place. And there is poor Wile E. Coyote bewildered because he is about to take an examen, an exam, or a control, as they say in this course. So, between this review, your study guides, and the revision assignment, you should have everything you need for the final exam. However, please contact me if you still need help, if you have des questions. Bonne chance and good luck. If you are watching this video, you must call me to get credit for it. Try both numbers, please, before leaving a message, and au revoir.